This is our last one in our series of 4 coping skills that often get confusing when we're going through a difficult time and trying to figure out how to get through it, how to survive it. This last one that we're doing is the difference between avoiding and resting. Kind of like some of the other ones we've done, they're similar, especially if you look on the outside. You can't always tell by looking whether someone is resting or whether they are avoiding. So let's talk a little bit about the difference. For avoiding, what does that look like? When we're avoiding something, we are kind of pretending like it doesn't exist. We're hiding it away. We are maybe in denial about it, saying things like, oh, it's not a big deal. I don't, people go through harder things. I don't really need to process that. I'm over it. These type of things when we're avoiding, and we tend to do things to distract ourselves. So one of the things when we're avoiding is some things are hard to avoid. Big emotions are hard to avoid. Challenging situations are hard to avoid. Difficult people can be hard to avoid. It's going to come up in our brain because our brain knows we need to deal with it. Our brain knows we need to do something with it. And so when we are avoiding, we tend to engage in more stimulus than what we do when we're resting. When we're avoiding, we're trying to shut down our brain from thinking about things that are overwhelming or thinking about that topic that we're trying to avoid. And so we tend to stay busy or we tend to stay occupied or we tend to sleep a lot or eat a lot, whatever we can do to engage our senses in something other than dealing with whatever it is that we're avoiding. Now, that can look sometimes very similar to resting. Let's talk about that one for a minute. Resting is super healthy. Sometimes, if we have some big emotions that we're processing, or again, a challenging situation, a difficult person that we have to engage with, maybe a coworker, a friend, a neighbor, we need rest. We can't just cope and deal 24/7. We're not built that way. God didn't design us that way. We're designed to cope, deal, and rest. Resting sometimes looks a little bit like avoiding because when we're resting, we're often taking care of ourselves. When we're resting, we may literally need to sleep, or we may need to just give our brain a break from thinking about the challenging situation or whatever it might be and watch a TV show or read a book or go to the park or do something that does engage your senses. So how do we know when we're resting versus avoiding? When we're resting, we're not minimizing. We're not telling ourselves it's not a big deal, get over it. We're not comparing. Other people have it harder. This really isn't that big of a deal. I've been through bigger things. We are accepting. When we're resting, we say things like, yeah, this is hard and I'm going to get back to it, but right now I need a break. Or we're saying something like, this is challenging. I've never been through something like quite like this before. But right now, I'm going to do something different, give my brain, give my body a chance to rest. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to deal with it again. So, can you hear the difference between resting and avoiding? In one of them, there's a lot of shut down and stuff down. And in the other, there's a lot of, oh, I'm just going to set this aside for a minute. I'm not going to forget about it. I'm just going to set it aside for a minute. So I encourage you, if you're going through something difficult, maybe you're on a healing journey from some childhood trauma, maybe you are going through a difficult time in your marriage, maybe you just got laid off from your job, or maybe you have a terrible boss and you're kind of wishing you had a different job. Whatever your situation is, if it's overwhelming to you, don't just avoid the pain of it. But you don't have to get completely sunk down in it as well. You can process it, pray about it, go to a counselor, journal about it, do the things that you need to heal, but also rest, take breaks from it. Give yourself some peace of mind, redirect your thinking just a little bit. When we do that, we're not stuffing. We're really taking a break. And that is exactly how God designed us to grow and heal.